This video will cover the exporting of update files out to the project team. We're going to continue on with the simple project plan that we're currently using, and this should generate two different EAUF forms that go out to both Joe and Jane. A couple of things we need to do before we issue out the EAUFs. First off, we need to edit some of the values in the responsibility value list. So I'm going to right click here, customize fields, look up those values, and you can see here that I've got Joe and Jane listed in this project plan. I'm going to delete these two because they're no longer relevant. Joe blogs, what we need to do here is type in Joe's email address. So this is the one that it's going to get sent to. We need to put that in brackets because that's the syntax that's required. So I'm going to put joe.blogs@cbre.com, and then similarly jane.simon@cbre.com. So that's one step. Close, save those in. The other step that we need to do, and this is going to become evident much later on after we've done the imports, is I'd like to save the interim baseline for this project plan. So what I'm going to do here is go to Tools, Tracking, Set Baseline, and again this is the interim baseline. So I'm going to set the interim baseline for the entire project. I'm going to copy the start and finish values into the start for, finish for fields. Basically what this does when I click OK, all it does is copy from start and finish into, I can show these here if I edit the table. So if I go to View, Table, More Tables, and make an edit here, I can put start for, finish for. I can show those. So all that did was copy these values into this column and then copy these values from here. I could do that myself, but it's a lot easier with a big project file to use that function. I'm going to hide these columns, and now we're ready to do the export. So what I'm going to do here first, I'm going to save this project file. I'm going to save it to my desktop as project, and then the best way to do this is you've got the project name and then the dates. So we'll save that. And I'm actually, whenever I save right before a publish, I'll put _P here to designate that that's the version of the file that I published out to the team. So I'm going to save that as _P, and now I'm ready to do the export. So I just click on the Export EAUF from the PSI toolkit. It's going to think a little bit about that, and it's going to ask me what the once it runs through this, it's going to ask me what the status through date is. So this is the next date that we're going to advance to within the project file. So the project plan currently thinks that it's Friday the 20th of July. The next data date for the project file is going to be, I think it's going to be Monday the 30th of July, which is the day after that next Friday. So I can manipulate this myself if I choose to, but since we generally follow 1 week control cycles, I'm going to keep that the same. You usually won't have to change that either. So once I agree this, I click Next. And this is the first of two forms where I change some parameters around those updates. So the sort by, this basically shows when the user opens up their EAUF, how are those activities going to be sorted. They can change the sort feature on their own, but we can set this before it gets to them. This makes sense though, sort it by deliverable, then by start and finish. So if your deliverables should be grouped together and then in order of when they occur. So that's generally correct, and I wouldn't really change that too much. Down here, custom columns. This is where you can display certain ones that you might feel are relevant for that project. In general, service line and deliverable are the two that you would want to have listed. In some cases, it might make sense if this is a multi-country plan. Rather than service line, you might want to have country. And similarly, there might be cases where you want to have phase or stage listed if that's the work breakdown structure for your project file. Usually you only have to set this one time, and then once you set it, you can then save that report criteria as something, and it will remember the next time that you do this export feature. The last thing to look at here is this look ahead date. Right now I'm specifying that it will show them things that are happening 2 weeks in the future. I could say show all of the activities in the project. If it's a very big project though, their EAUF could be enormous, so you want to limit that typically to a certain window, and the average number of weeks here is 2. So this is 2 weeks ahead of the next data date for the project file, so they're actually going to see 3 weeks of activities. You can play around with this, but generally 2, which is the default setting, is about right. Once you're okay with that, you go into the next field, and this actually shows who those EAUFs are going to get sent to. So here we've got the key milestone. We didn't specify an email for that. I can specify here, and I sort of intentionally left that empty, so if you did need to redirect an EAUF for that week, you can type that in. You can type over their name if you choose to, or you can enter that in here if you've forgotten to put that in. So I'm going to send the key milestone one to myself, just so that we can see what one of those delivered looks like, and you need to check that. And these are going to go to these fictitious names, Jane and Simon. Just to make absolutely sure though, I'm going to put some bogus characters in here so that they don't actually go to people with this name. You can decide where you want to save those update files. The place to save those within your folder structure would be under the project name and in the update folder. So usually just click updates and then OK. Since I'm not actually working with a live project file here, I'm going to save them to my desktop though. And then you also need to specify where the EAUFs are going to get returned to. So here I'm going to put myself. You can put the project coordinator, really whomever you want. But this is the default send to address. You can edit the subject. What I usually type in here is CBRE PMO, and then replace all of this stuff with project updates due by, and typically if the status through date is the next Friday, that's going to be when they're due back by too. So I'm going to say Friday 27th of July, and then I would go here and say please update the EAUF and return it back by end of business on Friday. And of course, if they've never updated an EAUF, you can direct them to the website to download it. Just thanks. So that's pretty much it. We're ready to send that out. I'm going to click next, and then we'll get a series of prompts from Outlook that pretty much it's a spam check with Outlook, just making sure that this is a viable program and it's not doing something malicious with my computer. So I click next here, and there's that prompt from Outlook, and I need to allow each one of these. So I'm going to get 3 prompts. This one's for the key milestones. Allow. I'll allow this one as well. And allow that one too. EAUFs have been mailed. Would you like to review the log file? You can look at that. It's just a text file. It's opened up over here. It says what time, who it was sent to, and that gets saved in the export folder that was created. So you may have heard that ding. That was an email hitting my inbox. Let's take a look at that folder structure though that it's set up here on my desktop. So this is the folder that was created when I went through that export process. I can open this up, and here you see exports, imports, the log, which we just looked at, and metrics, which is blank. I don't think that's a used feature right now. So the exports, those are the 3 that were sent out. So if I need to send a reminder, this is where I go to, or resend that if they've lost it. Imports is empty because I haven't gotten anything back yet. Let's go ahead and check my email, and here is the 2 undeliverable messages, which I would expect, and then another one with the actual EAUF file for me for this update cycle. So this is the EAUF that has the key milestones attached to it. Now with milestones, the only option here is either not started or complete. If I do in progress, it's going to give me an error. So I'll do complete, and we'll say that that one was complete as expected on the 21st. Well, that can't be true because that's a Saturday, so we'll say it was finished on the 20th. And yeah, it says 21st is not a valid working day, so it's accepted this. So this form is complete. I will send it back, and here it's going to prompt me to save it. I'll first save it to the desktop, and then there's that default email address that I typed in. I can put a CC, ending notes, send this through. And again, another message from Outlook, not quite fully integrated there with the security. Click allow, and I've created an email, sent it through. I can close this out, and then when I send receive, it should, there we go, it's just popped in. So whenever I receive an EAUF, I look at it, it's correct, then I want to go ahead and save that. I'll save it to my desktop in that folder, imports. I have to wait for this a second. And then I just save it as the name of the person that's returned it. In this case, I'll just use key milestones. Save. So that pretty much covers the export of updates, as well as what to do once you've got one and how to check those and save them back. And the next video is going to cover how to import updates and analyze some of the results.